Welcome to Simple Review, the series where I briefly play a game, review it, and keep it simple. If at any point you find this review to be helpful, consider leaving a like and subscribing. Now in this review, I'm covering a co-op Souls-like game called Salt and Sacrifice. When playing this game, you will only have one mode to play, and that is the story mode. This mode can be played in full co-op with one other friend. This means you won't have any weird mechanics like you would see in other Souls-like games, like dying and being kicked out of the game. PvP and random matchmaking is available at the expense of items like you would see in other Souls-like games. Story-wise, a kingdom's peace is threatened by the arrival of mages. The kingdom has responded by forming an organization to hunt down these mages. Now when it comes to gameplay, you will create a character. Depending on how you create this character, you will be given certain gear and placement on a skill tree. After a short tutorial, you will arrive in a hub world that will allow you to travel to 5 regions as you progress the game. These regions will contain several bosses, enemies, mages, and loot. If you're familiar with the first installment of the Salt games called Salt and Sanctuary, this whole experience may seem very familiar. However, this game was heavily influenced by Monster Hunter. Instead of just exploring area to area, finding better gear, and grinding up experience, you will instead need to be crafting equipment to counter elemental types of mages and bosses. So for example, a cold elemental mage will be weak to fire weapons. Enemies will all drop loot, but when fighting mages and their minions, they will drop elemental materials that can then be used to create that element's gear set. You won't get all of the materials at once, so you will need to be farming these enemies to construct this gear. Daily mage hunts will be available later in the game, so you will have some consistent content to keep you busy. Besides that, you will have a full-blown Souls-like experience. You will kill enemies and collect a currency to be used on leveling up your character. If you die at any point, you will drop that currency and need to retrieve it. Shrines will be spread out around each area for you to rest at. Healing and reviving items will require the expense of resources, so they won't be replenished when resting. Leveling up will reward you with an increase in stats, along with skill points to be used in a skill tree. This skill tree, at first, will outline what you've chosen when creating your character, but will allow you to build out a character however you want. Besides upgrading your character, you can also upgrade your gear at the expense of materials. And that's all that this game has to offer. Now for my experience, I'd have to say I'm pretty happy with this game. Having played the previous game, I can easily see what changes were made to please the community. The main change was the addition of online co-op. The previous game only had local co-op. Having online functionality is a great feature and works flawlessly. I felt the whole experience was very balanced. The whole elemental addition to the game allows you to have several builds rather than just relying on one build. The skill tree is massive and allows some real in-depth builds. Bosses all seem unique and have their own fighting mechanics. Music was great and art design is excellent as expected. I can't say there's anything I could complain about, so I'd easily have to give this game 10 pepperonis out of 10. Salt and Sacrifice is an excellent Souls-like game that delivers a fun and in-depth experience with necessary improvements to the Souls-like co-op functionality. And that'll do it for this review. Comment below if you have any questions, and I will try to help.